NBA Youngboy has been one of the most consistent artists these past years, dropping a minimum of 2 projects per year. He's known to use a couple of specific styles for his beats, and one of them are those beautiful, soulful pain beats. 1 week ago, he just released his first 2 songs after being released from jail, and that is the perfect time to take a deep dive into the techniques used in his soulful pain beats. In this video, I'm going to break down a beat in that beautiful pain style like on Adapted or My Body. Something that he or Quando would hop on. And I'm going in depth behind the techniques used in those beats. And now without any further talk, let's hop right into the video. So if you want to lay down a beautiful pain melody for somebody like Youngboy or Quando, the easiest way to get the basic vibe going is to use a piano or use a guitar as the bass instrument. So on his new song Where I've Been, the bass instrument is a guitar, but in this case I've used a piano from Keyscape, which is the ballad preset. But if you want me to break down how you can easily make those beautiful guitar pain melodies in one of my next videos, let me know in the comments. They might be a lot easier than you think. If you have watched one of my videos before, you already know that the 176 chord progression is one of the most common chord progressions when it comes to pain melodies. And the way those chords sound just depends on how you play out the rhythm of the chords. That chord rhythm that you can hear on My Body, for example, is exactly what we have right here. We play the 1 and then we've got the exact chord rhythm to create that soulful feeling. This is one of the most common ways to lay out your chords, to create that bounce immediately. And to make things even more bouncy, we add a couple notes here and there to create a cool flow and build up the tension. So as you can see in the first part, we got all these notes in between, but after the 3rd bar, there's literally nothing going on since we build up the tension for the chords to drop again. This is something that you can keep in mind. Have one half that is a little bit more busy and one half which is less busy. To give your piano a more natural touch, you want to also alternate the velocities. And for the effects, I just added a reverb. To complement our chord progression, the second step is to add top keys. And the goal of the top keys is to add a more soulful component to the melody. So when you take them out or add them in, you can hear a clear change in the dynamic of what is going on. First of all, you want to lay down something that complements what you already have. The second step is to add the soulful character. You do that by adding a couple of these flick sounds and using the right notes that complement each other in a way that they create a more emotional, more soulful energy. You can see that I've played the 6, the 7, and the 1 and a bunch of different variations. Those notes work perfectly together. And then you also have the 3, 2 and 7, which in this case I've played at the end of every 4 bars. This is one of the most used top line techniques that you can hear in pain melodies. To add the top keys, I've just copy and pasted that first Keyscape instant that we already have, so it's the exact same preset and the exact same effects. When you listen to those NBA Youngboy, Quando street pain beats, something that you can frequently hear that just adds to that soulful vibe are the organs. So I went into Contact, Vintage Organs, Basic Gospel preset and laid down one of these organ runs. What is important when you want to lay down those organ runs is that you have a switch up of long notes and short notes. And something that always works is if you lay down something cool, that you copy and paste it, put it up in octave to build a harmony. In this case, I've just randomized the velocities, but I've added no effects. Of course, when we talk about making pain melodies, we can't forget about the easiest part. Why is it the easiest part? Because you just need to copy and paste what you already have into a new instance. Of course, I'm talking about the layering. In this case, I open up the most common preset, which is the pillowy pad piano, and just copy and pasted the chords. We're now coming closer to the end. Something that you also always want to add is the bass. And the preset that I've used is the preset that I've always used. I cannot cheat on the Ample Bass P-Lite 2. There's only 2 steps you need to follow if you want to lay down a cool bass. First of all, we just follow the root notes, copy and paste the root notes, so we can start from there. The second step is to add a couple of extra notes right before another root note hits. If you have a progression like that where you got a lot of chords playing in the first half and then there's a long span where you don't introduce a new new chord, you can just add a couple of notes right at the end so you can smoothly fade into the next chord. And what I recommend is to have two variations. In the first half, you have a little bit of a different melody playing as in the second half. So we've been over the most easy parts, now it's time for the most difficult part for most producers, but only until now. Because of course we want to add some sort of guitar top line. And since it can be a struggle to come up with cool guitar top line melodies, if you're not able to have expensive guitar VSTs or can't play the guitar on your own, I got the perfect solution because I went into the Lonely Cloud kit and added a bunch of the live guitar phrases, which you can just drag and drop into the playlist. In this case, I grabbed 2 of them, and on top of that, I've just played a couple of extra notes on my guitar. If you want amazing guitar counters, phrases, accents, top keys, a full paint stash drum kit, and 35 placement ready paint loops like the one that I'm just breaking down, feel free to check out the first link in the description. You get right to the Lonely Cloud kit. For the guitar that I played in addition, I've added an archetype chord wrong and a reverb. So there's only one major component left, which I will break down right after the 2 accent sounds that we break down right now, which is a vocal and that typical paint ambient sound that you can hear in so many paint melodies, which you can also find in the Lonely Cloud kit. 2 best options to find cool vocal sounds is to go on Splice or use Arcade, since they also have good vocal sounds. The effects are pretty simple too. On the ambient sound we have no effects. I've added an EQ to cut out the very highs, and I've also added a reverb just to make it sound a little bit more ambient. The last major component that just works perfectly with Youngboy and Quando Rondo street paint vibes are saxophones. For saxophones, you've got a couple different options. Arcade has some cool saxophones, Splice has cool saxophones, or you can just go on YouTube and look up for royalty-free saxophone packs. And to make them your own, the only thing you need to do is chop them up in a way and restructure them so it doesn't sound exactly like you can find it online. This is also what I've did right here. And in addition to that, I've added a reverb and EQ to cut out the very highs and a little bit of delay. So and those are the major components you need for beautiful street paint vibes somebody like Youngboy or Quando Rondo will hop on. And before we break down the drums, let's listen to what we've got. So what I always preach is, if you have a complex melody, you want to keep the drums simple. Except for 2 drum sounds, every single one of these sounds is from either my Spring Season kit or from my Lonely Cloud kit. As I mentioned, if you want to check them out, just click the first link in the description. And if you've watched the video until this point, you can use code NBA at checkout for 20% off. And the first thing that I've always start with are the hi-hats. And with everything, I always alternate the first and the second part. So in those beats, you can really keep the hi-hats very simple. So everything I usually do is a bunch of these rolls. I like these rolls a lot since they're super crisp, and then a couple of those 3-step rolls. In the first half we only have those 3 rolls and that 1 extra note right here. And when you take a closer look at the velocities, you can also see that I've like to switch them up a little bit, alternate them a little bit, since it gives the hi-hats a more natural bounce, which I like in those more melodic beats. I just think it fits the vibe. So in the second half, you can see we've got a little bit more rolls. We've got those 2 extra rolls at the end. Nothing super crazy or complex, but that is the whole point. Our melody is already complex. We got a lot of energy, and we still want to keep some space for an artist to rap on it. So we don't want to do too much, but an accent snare always works. Same play as before. First half, we got only 3 notes. Second half, same notes, but then we've got the little roll at the end. I know this doesn't seem like magic, but this is what keeps everything more interesting, since the listener isn't stuck in that loop, but you don't overcomplicate it, you don't fill it out too much, you don't go too crazy, but there's a notable difference. So So for the 808, I kept this super simple. I've just followed the root notes of the chords, and then in this space where nothing is really playing, no new chords are introduced, I wanted to build up the energy again, same that I've did with the melody as well, and the bass guitar, for example. And for this note right here, I've turned the velocities all the way down, since that creates like a cool effect once it fades back into that original chord section. For the second half, it's the same again, except for that one note that I added extra, which is, as I said, nothing crazy, but there is something that keeps the listener interested. And to finalize that, I've added that main kick from my Lonely Cloud kit as well, and just later the 808. So every time the 808 hits, the kick hits too. Last two components for the drums. One, which is used quite frequently in pain beats. Of course, I'm talking about the open head, kind of following the exact pattern that the chords play, except I'm leaving out the last chord. Just sounded better to me, to be honest, but you can go either way. You can add one more note right here. And the very last component is this triangle perk. Also fits very well into that sound, and it just plays one time. So before I play that full beat for you, if you watched the video until this point, make sure to hit that subscribe button real quick so I can make more of these videos. Now, since you've did that, let's hop into the final beat. Thank you for watching until the end, and a quick reminder that a lot of these sounds that I've used are from the Lonely Cloud kit, which comes with a full stash drum kit, 35 placement ready loops, tons of guitar phrases, accents and counters, top keys, a lot of great sounds to make beautiful melodies like that. If you want to check that out, check the first link in the video description. And if you now want to know how to make beautiful pain beats for Lil Durk, you can check out this video.